was actually going to start my interview. So, being from New Orleans, which is a gumbo pot of cuisines and traditions, I was really excited that you took some time to speak with us today, and I'm very appreciative. And if that's okay, can we go ahead and get started?
Of course, because you're from New Orleans, I would actually like to start with an explanation. So there was a season of Queer Eye where I helped somebody in Texas make a gumbo for his restaurant. And the daughter requested that I put corn in it. And I just wanted to clarify with readers and viewers that it was not my choice. It was their business and their recipe because I got a lot of heat on social media for putting
I
corn
am
in
shocked
gumbo,
and appalled that gumbo,
right?
that corn was placed in gumbo.
Well, that's what they wanted. So I just wanted to say for anybody who happened to watch that episode of us in Austin, Texas, at Plukey's, it was a crawfish, kind of like a dive bar situation. That was not my choice. So I just wanted to reiterate, but now we can start the interview. And I promise that won't take up. We can add another 3 minutes because I had to explain myself. So you please
It's
go
no
ahead.
problem. I will give you my stamp of New Orleans approval. It was not you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's just get started.
Love it.
So, no taste like home. Um, One thing that stood out to me was how intimate it was. For an example, when you're with Aquafina and you're all in the kitchen with her grandmother, she says it a few times. She's not Aquafina, she's Nora. So, can you tell me a little bit about how inviting your experiences were in some of these homes?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was kind of it's interesting because I think with a lot of actors and with Nora, it was the added layer of her dealing with going back to South Korea where she hadn't been since she was 4 years old, when her mother passed away for her mom's funeral. So it was intensely emotional. And I think with actors too, it's sort of like they tend to, well, they play characters. I'm whether on No Taste Like Home or on Queer Eye, I'm basically myself, an edited version, but I'm myself. And so they're understandably, actors are protective over their personal spaces and their journeys. But I think the way that I made sure to have a conversation either in person or on Zoom or a FaceTime with every single guest that we had on the show, because yes, it is a job, and yes, it is a show that's, meant to provide entertainment and information and be adventurous and all those things and inspiration. But I really, really wanted this, and Robin O'Sullivan, our showrunner, we wanted this to feel like a gift for each one of our actors, that they could take those lessons, pass them on to their children, to their family members, to their chosen family, whoever it was. And so I think it was beautiful that, all of them in their own ways allowed us to meet their families, which is like a really vulnerable personal thing. I think they understandably want to have some boundaries. But Nora's paternal grandmother was such an important key player in the whole thing because she was the one who really wanted to make sure that Nora got as much South in her as she could. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, which was obviously hard to do without having a biological mother there. But it started out with jajangmyeon, with this dish, and then it evolved into so many other dishes that we explored. And also, like just from an entertainment perspective, in a way that we can all relate, like Nora's grandmother calling her out that she's like never cooked for her and she doesn't know that she wants to like wash all of her meat. Like that's stuff that I think is funny. It's a little irreverent, but I think it like touches at the heartstrings because it's like we all have that grandma. You know what I mean? Like we all
Right.
have that member in our family who's like putting us in our place. And there's a universality there. And I think the purpose of this show, and I think the purposes of food is to bring us together and to connect, not just at the table, but also with the stories that we tell. And so it was, yeah, it was just so beautiful. And I mean, the fact that the grandma literally brought production told her, like, don't bring anything, just give us the recipe and you're gonna make it. That woman came everything pre-chopped. She did not trust us or production or our
Totally prepared, wanting her own seasoning cut a certain way and everything.
that shit was not planned. She literally showed up with everything. And one thing that didn't make it to camera, whenever she was making the food, Nora was like, Grandma, like you're making so much food. And she would literally break the fourth wall and be like, but we have to feed all these people. And she's like referring to all of production. And then randomly she would like look at someone and start a conversation with them. Like she was so real. Like I loved
That's
her for
such a
that.
grandmother thing.
I know, I know. She's
Totally,
like, I don't
totally.
care. There's a show going on. We got bellies to feed, yo. So good. I
Beautiful,
I love her.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So, and speaking about, I guess, Nora's story, in a lot of the other episodes, I found myself, tearing up a bit. So, how is it for you to witness some of these stars go through these emotional moments and discover things about their past that they had no idea about before?
I mean, it's sort of, I have to remind myself that this isn't my journey, that I'm the host and I'm there to kind of hold their hand, either symbolically or literally sometimes if there are heights involved. I'm joking, but I'm afraid of heights. But it's a reminder that they're on that journey, and I'm just there to facilitate. In every scene that you see, it was important for me to, I get it, I'm a host. I present them with a fact or a little piece of information, but then we make sure that we have a genealogist or a historian or an expert who's actually able to provide that context. Because I think like viewers are smart too. And it's like, I'm not going to pretend like I've been sitting here doing this research. There's a massive team behind Studio Ramsey and Nat Geo who spent 3 to 6 months on every single episode and just giving it time to space to kind of like breathe as well. Like I remember meeting Issa beginning of the episode. This didn't make it to camera, but she looked at me and she was like, I've seen you on that other show. And she's like, you best not like you're not gonna make me cry. So like don't. I was like, got it, got it. And then lo and behold, she got emotional at the end because
Multiple
she
times.
multiple times. But I think a moment that stuck out, obviously when the griot was sort of like reciting her family history and telling her like this is your home, you belong here. I get chills just thinking of that. But even near the beginning of the episode, I was rewatching and I didn't clock this when I was with her, or I didn't like fully take it in. But after she met her great grandmother, or I believe it was great grandmother or grandmother Binta, the one who like married for love, which was like so uncommon at the time in a culture where it was arranged marriages for many different reasons. Or the uncle that she kind of like met afterwards, when I was having like my little moment of reflection with her, she was like, I hope that he saw a little bit of Binta in me. And it reminded me like Issa, who's this like strong ass independent woman, also feels the need to be seen as a reminder that like we all want that, right? Like we all want uh, to be seen for who we truly are or who we want to be. And I think
True.
it was a moment of vulnerability that she didn't have to go there. And I'm like really glad that she did because I think it's important for anybody who is struggling in any way, shape, or form with their identity, or, in this case specifically, a child of immigrants or an immigrant themselves can realize, like, yeah, that's like a universal thread. That's a thing that we actually like all have in common. And you
Mhm.
can still be strong, but you can also be vulnerable in that moment as well. And it's sort of like those two things can coexist at the same time.
Definitely. And I will say that's a testament to your hosting because your excitement and curiosity made them be able to be vulnerable and more open and share these stories. And it just
Mm,
bode very well on screen, definitely.
thank you for saying that. That's really sweet.
Yes, of course. So, I mean, throughout the entire uh, series, you tasted beautiful and well prepared dishes. Do you have a most memorable dish from the series?
Most memorable dish. I would say, I mean, I think that answer would change every day based on like the temperature outside. It's like kind of like having to pick between my babies. But there was a moment of this moment of like, it was just so simple and perfect when I was with Henry in Borneo and we got off of the boat and we tried some of the best fish that I had ever tried in my life with torch ginger, this sort of like flour, crunchy, sweet flour that was just kind of like ripped up and like added as a sort of textural and a sour element to the fish was fantastic. But even with Issa, I think fish, maybe I'm thinking of fish today, but even with Issa, when we were after we heard about the prayer about of her ancestor, the king of like that the fishermen say, when we sat down and a chef prepared that fish for us was like unreal. Like you're sitting in the sand, like so casual. My lower back maybe hurt a little bit, but it was fine. And you're just like tearing away at fish with your hands. Like there's no greater joy for me, you know?
True, true. So, I mean, some of these places that you visited were oceans away from where these stars either grew up or
Yeah.
reside, but there's still that connection. Do you have a recipe or a dish that you feel like connects you to your own ancestral roots?
Mm. Um, I mean, yeah, definitely so many. I think. being raised in Canada, my parents were immigrants from, my father was born in Brussels in Belgium because his parents fled there after the war, but both my parents are from Poland. We had 9 months of winter in Canada with like 4 to 6 feet of snow. And so we had a lot of soup, a lot of hot steaming soup, whether it was a pickle soup, barley or sorrel, or there was one that was żurek, which is it's sour. I love sour. Like give me a
Okay.
bag of sour candy any day. And it's a soup that's actually made with a rye starter. So it's got that fermentation aspect to it, which is really good. Polish people, there's no shortage of like Polish people who love to drink or be overserved vodka. And so hangovers are a big thing in our culture. And so this is called the hangover soup. And so it's like really sour. It's a clear, they call it white borscht, even though it has no beets in it. And it has bratwurst in it, which is actually a German white sausage, which for me, it's deeply nostalgic. You would have a hard boiled egg in it and like little bits of potato and a lot of margarine. And it was really rich, but just like really thin and just had good chunks of vegetables in it. But now because I'm putting my like no taste like home hat on, I'm sort of like, okay, this is an iconically Polish soup, but there's a German sausage in it. And Polish people love their sausage. Why were we not putting Polish sausage into it? And then you think about German occupation, World War II, and even
Mhm.
before that in history, Poland was off the map
How
for
those
400
cultures come
years.
together and
Exactly.
mix.
And it's
Yes.
like, it's like kimbap in South Korea with Nora, where it's like Japanese influence, but the Koreans were like, no, we're making this our own. So it kind of begs the question and gets me a little curious about my family history too, because it's like we have that everywhere. I mean, even what I was able to learn about the nuances and the differences between Cajun and Creole cuisine.
Hmm.
And so I think Cajuns typically cooked with oil, but then Creole had the influences of Spanish, Afro-Cuban, and even like
Correct.
Native and First Nations influences where they were able to grow tomatoes. They had access to butter because it was a French influence. And it's this
Yes,
whole confluence of all these different things that kind of come together. And it's like, what's beautiful there is that it's kind of a reminder in this like terrifying world that we're living in that it's sort of like no, like we are all connected, you know what I mean? And
for
let's all
sure.
just like
For
calm
sure.
down and have a meal and just like have conversations about it. Sorry, I went off on the
No,
deep end
it's
there with your
okay. We're
question,
on the
but it's
same page.
okay.
And, it's just so important that these recipes and traditions are continued to be passed down through generation and so forth and so on. And, I just want to thank you for taking the time out to speak with us today. This series is very entertaining and engaging, and audiences would love for this series to be extended and hosted by you to even more stars to
Oh.
showcase, their journey through this cultural influence in their past. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with me.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna have the best day because of you now, I swear. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you
That's
so
really
much. If you're
sweet.
ever in New Orleans, look me up. We'll have some real gumbo.
I gotta come back to NOLA. It's been too long. Yeah. Maybe not
Definitely.
hurricane season because my dog hated
No.
it, but other than that, it was perfection.
In my aunt's kitchen, the best gumbo. You have a good day.
Careful, I'm not gonna leave. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.